Hi, this is Nate Strohr, and I'm the practice lead at Third Stage Consulting. My job is to work with all of our practitioners from the business development side all the way through to project delivery on project governance. And basically what project governance means from a third stage consulting point of view is making sure that we're giving our clients the best quality product that we can, giving them what we've promised them, and making sure the quality within our projects is top quality for every step of the way throughout the project. The key to a good governance practice and within not only our organization but within our engagements is making sure that we have a solid set of tools in place, all the way from the business development life cycle. So we are learning what the client needs to help them succeed, that we are telling them how we will succeed, what our task milestones and deliverables will be, what our timing will be, and what the cost will be. So the key to ensuring success and a good project governance structure will not only lay out what's going to happen within the project, but how long it will take and what the final deliverables will be and what it will cost. And then on the flip side, what is expected from the client as well, so that we make sure that everyone's on the same page going through from the beginning to the end of our projects, that we're all working towards the same goal with our same set of guidelines. We have basically three sets of tools that we use. We use a weekly, well, first of all, we set up a project structure, and that structure entails a steering committee, an executive committee, and the actual working team on each one of our projects. We match the third stage practitioners up with the client to make sure that we have our day-to-day operations, our leadership within the project, and then finally at that executive committee to make more of the high-level decisions within the project. Once we've established that team, we set up really two basic tools to track all of our projects, and that is a budget to timeline weekly status that shows where we stand as far as the tasks and the deliverables that we've promised the client, and where we stand as far as our timeline and our budget compared to what we've proposed. And then finally, we have our weekly status report that tracks what we've done for the period that we report. We try and keep that at a weekly basis. What we've accomplished, what's upcoming, any issues that we have, any upcoming decisions that are made, what any resolution to the issues, and then what are outstanding issues or concerns for the project. By adhering to those two tools of budget, timeline, and status report, tracking the issues and the decisions made, it gives us a really good framework for keeping the project on course. What we try and do is we try and automate the processes as much as we can to track, again, the issues and the resolution, the upcoming decisions, and the status of the project. But we try not to make these projects too technology overbearing, I guess would be the best way to put it. We try and enable enough technology so that we can automate the process, but not losing people in the technology, and still making that interaction with the client on a weekly basis to tell them what exactly is going on within the project, how we're doing, and what are the challenges we're facing. So there's a lot of different project methodologies, and we actually were just working with a client last week talking about the specific methodologies. No matter what the methodology is that is utilized for the projects, the key is really adhering, setting up a set standard and a set process and a set methodology, and then following it. So we at Third Stage don't adhere to or don't shy away from or adhere to any set methodology, but the key to it is establishing a methodology, establishing what the roles are for each individual from both the client side and from a third stage consulting point of view, and making sure those roles and those expectations are established early and are discussed throughout the project. So it's really more putting the tool in place and then adhering to the tool and following the guidelines that it's set out. Really, the biggest challenge that we have on almost every project is maintaining a clear expectation from activities and roles and responsibility and a time commitment from both third stage and the client. So really sitting down at the beginning of a project and saying, this is what is expected from the client's participation point of view, and this is what third stage will deliver within the project. Oftentimes there's a lot of enthusiasm and a lot of momentum when we kick off a project. Everyone has their day jobs, so we tend to see that start to wear off throughout the project. And really, we find that not only from a third stage point of view, but when we come in on some of these expert witness cases as well, one of the major factors towards a project falling behind or project failure is that there's a lack of commitment and a lack of decisions made from either third stage or the client. So it's really a matter of setting up, these are your expectations, and adhering to them every week and immediately addressing when something falls off track or something falls behind schedule. Yeah, I think it's really a matter of setting the process in place early on. So sitting down with the client at the beginning of the project and say, our project team will meet weekly, our executive team will meet biweekly, and our steering committee will meet monthly. That allows us to make sure that for the most part, any project that starts to slip will only have 4 days at the most to slip behind before we address it. So it's really a matter of not only figuring out what the challenge is, what's causing the project to fall behind, but addressing it as soon as possible with the project team, and then really setting up at the beginning of that project those escalation points from both a third stage point of view and a client point of view to say, hey, we're falling behind and we're going to address it now before it becomes an issue. So like I said, if you're meeting weekly with the project team, your maximum exposure is 4 days of really having an issue that hasn't been addressed. And once you know it and the client knows it, you can work with them to come up with the solution to bring it back on track. I think that the key, like I alluded to earlier, is just setting up those expectations, putting the tools in place, and really what we try to emphasize on all of our projects is sitting down and giving the client and the team members an idea of what is expected to them, what is expected of them in the upcoming week, and then really giving them enough guidelines over the next. We try and make sure that we're always looking out 2 to 3 weeks in advance to make sure everyone knows what's upcoming and allows everyone to adjust their schedules around it. That becomes really important when we get around summer vacations, holidays, and any, for example, like if a company, if one of our clients knows they have an audit upcoming, if we're looking 2 to 3 weeks out in advance, we can start to adjust the schedule so that no one is surprised by our need for them to participate in an activity or our need for them to produce a deliverable or produce in conjunction with us a deliverable. So it's really setting those tools up and adhering to them and trying to look out anywhere 2 to 3 weeks in advance so that we all know what is expected and we all know that everyone's going to be able to participate. How important is communication in project governance? I would say communication is probably the #1 key to project governance. It really starts at the beginning, and it's that first meeting with the client to sit down and establish what the communication tools are going to be, but how we're going to communicate and who's responsible for the actions after we have set up those tools. So it's setting up that weekly status call with the client. It's setting up that biweekly call with the steering committee. And then finally the executive committee would traditionally on a project would meet monthly, and it's really just constant communication, letting them know where we are, where we're going, what are some of our challenges, and what's the final outcome. If you follow those simple guidelines, it really makes communications a lot more simple, a lot more clear, and really as we've seen with projects, when communications break down, that's usually the first step towards a project starting to fall behind and introducing issues into the project. How do you foster a culture of accountability? I think it's really pretty simple, and it is at the beginning setting up what roles and responsibilities are, what are expectations, and laying out a clear project plan for what will take place throughout the life of the project. And then it's a matter of following the tools and the guidelines that you've set in place to discuss on a weekly basis what's expected of everyone, and addressing challenges when they come up, and not letting them pass more than 1 week throughout a project. So it's really saying, do we have the expectations in place? And if we're starting to not meet those expectations, addressing them immediately before they become a problem. The key performance indicators that we monitor is mostly a budget to actual and a schedule to actual, and then we track our milestones. So it's really pretty simple to look and say, are we on time? Are we on budget? And are we producing the deliverables that we've promised? And really, that's a little bit of a moving target, because given client availability and giving schedules, no project will ever go exactly as planned. So we try and look at where we stand on from a timeline point of view, where we stand from a budget point of view, and then more importantly, where do we stand from the deliverables we've promised. Making sure that if we fall behind, we have a plan to make up. If we get ahead of schedule, and if we are below budget, then what is that going to allow the client to do in the future with the project? So if we do get ahead, if we do fall below budget, and there's resources and time available, it's how we can help the client further meet their goals and their expectations, or it's getting the project finished and completed before we actually plan for it to complete, and under budget from what we've projected. Measuring the success of governance within a project is really just a matter of, it's not necessarily eliminating all risks and all challenges, but it's mitigating as much as we can. So really the way we measure success with governance at Third Stage is to sit down and put the tools in place, and really do all that we can from our point of view to make sure that we are delivering the quality product that we've promised a client on budget and on time. A time when we've had to pivot. Probably one of our previous client that we had a really big change in the scope. About halfway through the project, we decided that we were going to be using a different technology, or we were going to be aiming towards implementing a different technology than we originally planned when we sold the project to the client. Because we had a very good governance structure in place, and because we were doing really well tracking to both our budget and our timeline, we were allowed to really step back and say, okay, here's what we've accomplished to this point of view. We're going to repivot, we're going to realign with the client, and we're going to head into a new direction. So it allowed us time to sit down with the client and say, here was our original goal, here's our new goal, what have we accomplished now, what can we use from the first phase of our engagement, and how can we pivot to what we've accomplished at this point in time to get us to where we need to go. So it was really just a matter of calling a timeout, everyone regrouping and saying, okay, we have a new focus, we have a new goal, put together a new project plan, concur that or work with the client to make sure that we had the correct budget, the right resources, and the right timeline in place, and really re-aiming towards what our new goal was.